And I will welcome all of you to this Lunch and Learn hosted by Crossroads of Caring. My name is Mary Ann Brody, and I'm the Executive Director and an ACPE certified educator with the program. And today our topic is promoting spiritual care with people with disabilities. And we are honored to have the Faith Community Inclusion team from Heritage Christian Services with us. So Sherry and Diane and Paddy, we welcome you here. And I'm going to turn this over to you all.
Very good. I start. My name is Sherry Gricar, and I'm proud to say I've been part of Heritage Christian Services for 20 years. I'm not really sure how long I've been part of the Faith Community Inclusion team. I blame that on COVID. I think maybe I'm around 7 years doing this. My colleagues may have a better number, but I'm delighted to be here and just tell you a little bit about what we do at Heritage. And one of the things that I'll share with you is just working with teams and individual staff that may not be comfortable going to a faith community that may be different than their own. And this is actually a little story about some staff members, very good staff members, strong in their faith, work at one of the homes, and the staff is like, oh, come to my church. And they start taking some of the fellas to their church. And then another staff comes in that's also very passionate about their faith. And they say, hey, you could come to my church. Well, the first fella, that invited folks to the church said, well, what are they doing? And, they're saying it this way. And they were concerned about what the staff person was doing. And the manager asked me to come in and discuss this. And I was concerned. I was nervous, right? But it ended up being an easy discussion because although we all come from our own our different faith traditions, it was that person already had a faith community that they were a part of. And it's nice to go to someone else's church, and that's a very welcoming and lovely thing to do. But when that staff person leaves or the other staff person leaves, what happens to that faith community? Are we going to still go there? That person already had their faith community. So honoring that as honoring the person, and that's a really important part of their lives. Another area I wanted to just touch on when we're talking about connecting staff with how to share and make connections in their faith communities. At Heritage, we talk about the little things being the big things, and it's not just about showing up, but it's about belonging and participating. So we do encourage that with the staff to really prepare the person. So they're looking their best. Maybe sometimes we have to actually even do a little practice. Like if this happens, we're going to do this. And afterwards, we're going to do this. So we're really planning for that person to be successful when they arrive to their faith community. They're looking their best. And that as staff members, we're doing the same. Sometimes we have to do a little research like, oh, okay, this is what time they start. Oh, okay, this is what they have after. This is what we'll bring to be prepared. So we're talking all the time about being proactive and being prepared in the work we do. And that holds true even for supporting people with their faith traditions. Another thing I like to do, and our team has been so good with this, collaborating with each other and sharing ideas and coming with not just word, but maybe some additional things. So we talk a little bit about grief, and we like to bring visuals. Some of the things, this is from a past, something we've done in the past. I'll try to show it up. It's a scarf, actually. Can you see the snowflakes? When we were honoring the different concerns, I guess, around grief, we talk about the uniqueness of who we are and our experiences. So it's really nice to bring a visual in, and this was a neat thing to do too, because it was the winter months that we were honoring it. So we were like surrounding yourself with support, and you had a scarf to put on, and it just added to the experience for people. And some people are processing things differently, so we have to bring more information. Also, when I go to teams, I like to bring something. Well, usually I like to bring a food item, but that's not appropriate for everyone. Um, there's a beautiful devotion that I'll share often, that relates to scripture and how God can hold us to the fire sometime. And it talks about comparing a silversmith and what the silversmith is doing when they are heating the silver over the fire. And it talks about how do you know, and they're burning off all the impurities, right? And how do you know that it's reached the right purity? And the silversmith says that, because I see my reflection in the silver. And we talk about how that compares. I usually bring chocolate kisses for that devotion because they're silver. I wish I could buy silver bracelets for everyone, but that's not going to happen. But I usually bring something to it, and we talk about in our mission, reflecting the love of Christ in action. And it's a neat way to connect what we do with some creativity. Of course, if you bring chocolate, it's usually a win. But and we'll do a variety of things to connect with people and staff, and our hopes, and we see it in action, that really connects staff and individuals to their faith. They get creative and new approaches to honor faith and faith traditions. And sometimes we need that kind of creativity and to mix it up a little. And the beautiful thing about the work we do at Heritage, and I'm wrapping up now, is when we come in to share about our mission and faith connections, that can connect to everyone. So we could show up at any point of the day and share our good works. We don't have to come in at a separate time or that kind of thing for teams, unless it's sensitive information that we're discussing. But so that's just my piece for some creative ways to demonstrate teamwork and bring teams together. I always say food makes people friendly, but food's not always the thing. We can bring in music and different sensory items to just really enhance the experience and inspire people, right? Um, and again, we'll use some sign language. Um, my colleague, she may talk about this soon. She'll bring dance and movement and scarves into just really bringing people together and enhancing their experience. So thank you for my time. I'll look forward to listening to the rest.
Thank you, Sherry, and I especially like attending devotions with you, sharing devotions with you, and when you bring food as part of those devotions is always lovely. And I agree, food brings people together. My name is Padraic Collins-Bohrer, as it says there on the screen, or Paddy Collins-Bohrer, Paddy, if that's easier. I'm also a member of the Faith Community Inclusion Team at Heritage Christian Services, and this year I'm celebrating my 5th year as part of the team. I'm also yes, wonderful. And I'm also a priest in the Episcopal Church here in the Episcopal Diocese of Rochester. And it's lovely to be part of the Heritage Christian Services Faith Community Inclusion Team. Today, as part of the presentation, I wanted to share a little bit about when I go to visit people in their homes. Heritage Christian Services has about 100 sites altogether between Rochester and Buffalo, and those include houses where people live, residences where people live, and day programs, day habilitation programs where people are working on life skills. And we visit with people both in their homes and day programs. I wanted to highlight a little bit about visiting houses. And as I say, we each, there's four of us on the team today, meeting three of us here. Our colleague, Joe Starling, is not able to be with us today. He is at a funeral for a family member, but we are here with him, and we hold him in prayer today. So the four of us each have about 25 to 30 sites that we oversee. And just wanted to share a little bit about when I visit a home. I will go to a house and visit with each person at the house, meeting them where they are, talking with them about their day, connecting, and joining in activities that they're doing, oftentimes watching TV, playing cards, lots of Uno games, which I love, which I'm part of, and lots of folks I support love to watch classic TV shows such as MASH and Andy Griffith, and classic episodes of The Price is Right with Bob Barker. So connecting in that way, and then really meeting with folks. I do, and then as part of my visit, I usually plan my day so that I'll start the day around around 10 or 11, so that I'll get to a house after the folks I'm visiting have returned from work. And so around 3:30, 4 o'clock. And oftentimes, as part of my visit, I'm invited to stay for dinner. Which I am always happy to do. And for me, that mealtime is really a Eucharistic experience of breaking bread together, in my Episcopal church tradition of sharing symbols of the body and blood of Christ and being together. Also, food really brings people together. So sharing those moments. And oftentimes for my visits, when I'll schedule a visit, and so people are knowing I'm coming. And as the car I'm riding in pulls into the driveway, the door flies open. People come out, and they're already inviting me for dinner even before I get into the house. So that's really a special moment. For me to have those connections, which I really enjoy. Visits, because we each have the 25 to 30 sites, we I try to get to each site ideally once a month. But certainly if there's a need, I'll certainly prioritize where I'll visit. If somebody who has sent a request, asked to pray with me, or somebody who's near the end of life or is sick, I will certainly go and visit them, prioritize those visits over time. But just going and being present with people and connecting with them in their homes. And so often, I would say that part of these visits and connecting with people, one of the things that I enjoy, that I find, is these visits are certainly building relationships, and it's quite a luxury. I find as a part of the spiritual care team at Heritage Christian, is having the luxury to build relationships over time, to visit with people who I first met 5 years ago and have been able to build relationships with them over time, compared to being a CPE chaplain in the hospital. I did my 5 units of CPE at Strong Hospital here in Rochester, where I was lucky to visit someone in the hospital more than 1 or 2 times. But this way I'm able to track and get to know people over a longer period of time, which is a delight to do. And let me see. So all of my visits, some people do ask me to pray with them. I have several people who really enjoy and have uh, really enjoy studying the Bible and have deep theological questions, which I really enjoy to explore together. But that's not always the case. But so that if I go to a house and have a visit and we don't pray, it's still a very successful visit because of that connection and relationship. And oftentimes, meeting people, talking about things that are just really important to them. One of those items is certainly talking about how well the Buffalo Bills are doing, and we hope that they continue to do well in the playoffs. So that's a big topic of conversation right now. Let me see. I would say that a very meaningful moment for me, just to share a story, one of the people I support who is a person who I meet with regularly, who enjoys exploring her faith and sharing and reflecting on that with me. Um, she her father died recently, and this person I support um, really wanted an opportunity to have to create a memorial service and asked me to help her to create the service. So we did that together and put together favorite prayers, met with her. We put together a reflection, which we both delivered together, a reflection, a homily. And then the musician from her church came to offer music. And this was a service for her friends from church and friends from where she lives. And it was such an honor to be able to create that together. And so that's an example of one of the ways that I support people. And let's say that a couple other things that we also do as our team, we as a way to help connect people with faith communities of their choice, as Sherry and Diane and I will all talk about. One of the ways that we do that is through a group called the Greater Rochester Faith Inclusion Network, which is supported by Heritage. It's a monthly gathering of people with disabilities, their families, and also clergy to come together and learn about how to best support people with disabilities. And each month we have a different speaker who comes to share about different topics around faith and disability. And that's something that is really important to me as well, that I help to facilitate, we all facilitate. Um, and as far as, let's see, we also, as I say, the relationship building pieces, is really important, especially for when people get towards the end of life, and helping people at end of life, and as people we support may go into hospice, building those relationships over time. And we have a grief support team that actually helps us, again, as part of Heritage. We reach out in addition to our team with the music therapists and the dance therapists. So there's multiple different ways to help support people. Um, And those are all of the different areas that I wanted to share. And I invite Diane.
Hi, I'm Diane Sturmer. This is my 38th year at Heritage Christian Services. I've had the honor of taking folks on mission trips over to Ireland, and I also am just love, I feel like an honor. I direct a group called Heart of Dance, which is not just heritage folks, but people from all over the community. In fact, Garth Fagan is one of my mentors for this. I wanted to have a group of people that love to dance, and was all different ages, multi-ethnic, multi-ability. And we've been performing together, for 14 years. We've been around each other for 18, but we had a hiatus during the pandemic. But my area is going to be it's called Building the Bridges. And one of the areas our team works on is to build bridges for people when they first maybe move into one of our homes. We try to take them to several different churches and faith communities so they can decide. Maybe they've moved from one area of the state to our area, and they've never experienced any of our faith communities. So we try to share and have them be able to check out different places so they can really find out which one's going to be home. The connection's important, but more important to our team is the sense of belonging and purpose for the person when they get involved in a faith community. One of the ways that has been effective for our team is finding a role that the person would like to be a part of, so that the members of the faith community can see them as contributing members at that church. And if we can help them take those first steps in, then once they're in there, we can let go and just check in with them and see how they're doing. But that's been a real joy. There was one home, and I'll share this story because it's really neat. I call this with not for. If you keep that in the back of your head, that's there's a home up in Webster, and the folks were really wanting to get more involved in their faith community. Three people actually attended this church, and we started thinking creatively about it. I met with the pastor, with one of the individuals with me, and we talked about some of our commonalities. And we found out that both the faith community and the home that we were talking about had a connection with a group called Climbing for Christ. And they are a beautiful organization that brings up medical supplies and the gospel and friendships throughout the world in some of the most remote areas, because they have excellent climbers that can get up there. We actually go snowshoeing with this group. We go hiking with this group at Mendon. We actually once a year go to the Adirondacks, and in my early 20s, we would go up Bear and Black Mountain, and now we go around Moss Lake as everybody has aged a little bit, and we're all, excited to be able to do that together. So through the years, it's been over 30 years of hiking up there every year, and members of Climbing for Christ actually come with us. So we've had this great relationship, and we found out that the church they were attending also had this great relationship. And we thought, what can we do together, with each other versus a church maybe saying, we're going to do this for you, which tends to happen. What can we do for your home, for the group home, or whatever? We want the church to see us as just as viable and just as valuable as every other person in the body. So we gathered actually in the house in Webster because there was a huge table, and we decided we were going to have an Easter egg hunt, a walk around North Ponds up in Webster, and we were going to raffle off baskets and artwork so we could raise money for Climbing for Christ. So we're all working together. And they loved coming. The members that came from the church had never been to the house, and we put two big tables together and stuffed those Easter eggs so we could have the kids' Easter egg hunt. And some of the people from the house actually started the race, told people to 1, 2, 3, get going on your 5K or whatever you were doing you could do a mile or a 5K. And then we all gathered together at North Ponds, raised over $1,500, got a group picture of all of us together. And it's been talked about for years at this church that this was such a cool way to connect and to do stuff with each other rather than church members saying, I'm going to come and do this for you. And it was just the guys at the house felt so proud of themselves. And one of the women was the one who started the Easter egg hunt because she loves children. So it just all worked together, and people were really excited about that. So we're not only trying to assist as much as we have to, because once those relationships go, they don't need us anymore. But to make sure that the person has purpose and belonging. So that's a really important one. And beyond the church, if we've heard, like, our mission trips to Ireland came out of a desire to go serve people in another country, and we were actually able to serve in churches in that country. We had both a Catholic and a Protestant church in Killarney that we went to. One was the Catholic church. People went to go get maybe medals blessed if they were Catholic, or meet the priest, who happened to be, it was so funny, we're all the way in Killarney, Ireland. The priest is from right around here, but it just was kind of neat that way. But then in another church in town, we brought puppets all the way across the ocean, and brought them to a church and did like Veggie Tale songs with a Sunday school class. So we tried to gear it based on the people who were coming so that they could serve through other churches through the world. Every year, we try to do a different kind of service, and the last trip we went was after Hurricane Ophelia, and Ireland hadn't seen a hurricane in 30 years, but we went and we actually brought in our suitcases peanut butter, chocolate chips, or variety of chips, and paper products, because a bag of chips is about $12 over in Ireland. So it's a real luxury. So we filled up half of our suitcases with that. And part of it is so that we have room for souvenirs on the way home, but don't tell anyone. But we brought bags with us, and then the individuals, I held staff, we stayed back. They went up to farmers' houses, gave them the bags of goodies, and said, we're here to help you. We know that we've heard that your farm might need some cleaning up, and we're here. We want to just let you know that we're praying for you all the way from America. So we cleaned a few barns, we swabbed a few decks, we did whatever the farmer needed us to do. And we had an invitation from a farmer who says, oh, if you were a tourist, I would never do this. And he goes, but you are my friends. And he invited us at sunset to come to the top of Muckroast Road in Killarney and watch him bring in the sheep. He had a mama sheepdog and 3 little ones, and the last one loved to wiggle around and not really fall in line, if you know what I'm saying. And we got to watch that, and then he picked all 3 of the little babies up in the scruffs and walked them up to us on the top of the hill and let everybody hold those little puppies. And it was just probably one of the closest things I've seen to heaven. But the expressions on people's face, knowing that they had helped the farmer, that they came all the way from America to do it, and that he blessed us by letting us be a part of his natural life and just really enjoy it. So when we think about those connections, I just want that reminder to be in your heads, like, let's go beyond the building. Let's go as far as we can. I was just sharing, like, when people join a church, we try to make sure something special happens. There was one of my friends that I mentioned since I was 15, his name is Jimmy. He's since in heaven. But when he joined his church, he went to the men's group, a men's group, and he was asked lots of questions before he joined. And they asked him, why do you want to be a part of the church? And he just signed, I love Jesus. And that was it. And then he shared a song in sign language. It was called This Warrior is a Child. I think it's by Twyla Paris is the author, but he shared his song in sign language to that whole congregation. And I think there were so many Kleenexes around. People just loved seeing him. But we wanted them to see him in a contributing role right from the get-go. So we're always looking at, well, maybe there's somebody who likes to paint or build a shed, or those cleanup days that are in every faith community. We try to get in on those things if the people are interested in doing it, so that they can work alongside and see that beautiful contribution that people can give. Another fella, it's a Catholic church up in Webster. He goes to Hope House, which it's an organization that provides food for people in need, and not only food but school supplies and all that. Well, he goes there and he knows everybody in that basement that we sort out things in. Every week, every time we go, he has a different job. It could be sorting granola bars. It could be looking at dates on cans. One time we went in the evening because they were trying to divide up all the school supplies. He was sitting with it felt like half of his congregation, just sorting folder colors and getting things organized. But people were able to see him as just being part of the group. So when his mom passed away, he had more than 30 people come into her service to support him because he was their friend. And that's one of those important things as you think about building those connections and relationships, that the people will be there. Staff may come and go in our group homes and day habs, but the people from the faith communities, a lot of them are there a lot longer, and those relationships are so meaningful. So that's just something to keep in mind for during the grief process. I was going to also share during the grief process, we just try to, one of the things that we've done is for individuals is draw a picture of what they think the house in heaven of their parent or family member or friend who's passed away. One guy didn't like houses. He wanted to do a Mickey Mouse castle because he loved Disney. That was just his thing. So we had one staff that could draw it, which is like, it's not going to be me. I can say I'm creative, but I'm not artistic. But they drew it, and everybody wrote in little sayings that he would say in that house, drew the things they knew were important to him, music, whatever it was, around the house. They knew he liked the color red, so there was red in it, whatever it was. But I started that 25 years ago when a young 22-year-old passed away on a trip to the Bahamas with his parents. He was in an accident where the driver had been drinking and etc. But he was the only one who passed away in this accident on a tour bus. And we were like, what are we going to do? So we developed this house in heaven. It was the first time I did it, and I was like, Lord, you got to show what to do because I have no idea. This is just so hard because some of the guys had just gone snowmobiling with him up in the Adirondacks a week or so before his trip. So we did that, and then we asked his mom for orange t-shirts because he loved orange. And some of the people from some of the faith communities came over and helped us, but we sewed pillows, and we made them out of his t-shirts, and we saved one for his mom. But everybody in his program went home with an orange pillow made out of one of his t-shirts. And that was like so special. But there's projects like that where we need the people from our faith communities. So it's a back and a forth type of a thing. But those are just really kind of fun things that have happened. We've surprised pastors. We found out their anniversary and threw a little care basket outside their parsonage or their house and just said, we love you, from whoever attended the church signed it. We love you, and we want you and your wife to have a nice anniversary, or come over and use our swimming pool. We have a pool. When you are off during the week, everybody's gone from the house. You can come and enjoy the pool, you know, and I always got the permissions from our president, you know, is it okay if they come use the pool, you know, whatever. But we had a church next door. This is such a cool story. There was a girl that used to go on walks outside of her group home, and if you asked her if she ever wanted to be involved in a faith community, no, not interested. I really like sports. I like this and that, but not, nah. She kept going on her walks, and she met the pastor and his wife out in the parking lot. And then I decided, why don't we do a community study at the church? Let's ask them if we can do it. So I did it, and I said, "Can you help me with this?" She was off from work during that time. And she's like, "Yeah, I'll help you." She got there in a week's time. She was ready to join the church. I mean, she had met the pastor and his wife. She met this beautiful woman that joined us, and it was a couple people from our day hab, and one of the guys that joined us attended the church already and lived in Henrietta, but he came up with his community hab staff to join the Bible study. So it was a real nice mix of just people. And we studied about joy and courage and, you know, just little short 5-week sessions. Anyway, she knows the schedule for the whole year there. She knows when they go up by the lake. It's an Episcopal church, and they go up in the summertime up to the lake. She walks over herself. She knows when the Christmas Eve service is. She brings her artwork to the pastor and his wife to encourage their hearts. So it's like this wonderful thing. And then the church heard we were doing a shoebox ministry at the day hab where some of the people were attending. We let them know in September. And then November 5th, their members came, some of their retired teachers and such came and presented with like 5 huge bucket Tupperwares of items that they could put in those shoe boxes. And the 2 ladies that presented on it were from the day hab. They were so proud that they were facilitating and leading that whole thing. So I guess that's pretty much what I have, but I know we wanted to open it up for questions. But when you're building bridges with people, keep in mind purpose and belonging. So
Thank you, Diane. I also just wanted to add one other thing that one of the other ministries and supports that we offer is actually, in addition to the trips to Ireland, which Diane has led people on, we also have other international ministries to Guatemala. Where we support people in Guatemala who live with disabilities. Staff members take about a week each November to help out at a summer camp, where it's summer in Guatemala for people who live with disabilities. And it's an opportunity for staff from Heritage Christian to visit with and support people who live with disabilities in other parts of the world. I had the great honor to travel to Guatemala last year for the first time, and it was such a wonderful experience. Again, to be with people and support people and learn about different culture and see how people with disabilities are supported there. The trips to Guatemala is also a very important ministry for our colleague Joe, who is not able to be with us today. Joe's been to Guatemala, I think, 12 to 14 times. So he loves going and loves to bring folks along as well. So that's another big part of our ministries. So, well, thank you so much. And with that, we would love to open it up for any questions that you have.
I wonder if you could say just a little about Heritage Christian Services, as far as the population, what kinds of disabilities folks have who are living in your residences?
Yes, yes. So they are the types of disabilities are mostly intellectual disabilities.
Okay.
And with those intellectual disabilities, oftentimes there are people live with physical disabilities as well. Most of the people we support are adults. So I would say anywhere between the ages of um, 20 to 30 to 70 or 80 on the other end. So that span there. We do also support some school age people. We have a respite program, so after school program for people who are still living at home, but the school will drop them off at the respite sites. Um, so we're supporting some younger people there as well. Um, and as far as the number of folks that we support, Diane or Sherry, you may have a better idea of how many people we support. Um, the number of staff that we're part of, the staff, they have about 4,000 employees altogether between Rochester and Buffalo.
Yeah, it depends on how many programs you include. We also have staff that go out to family homes and provide community habilitation. And we also have what we call our community residential options, which are just homes in the community that might not require 24-hour staffing. So I would say at least, I would say at least 1,500 if you include every program in every area. One of the important things to note too is that our agency supports people right where they're at as far as their faith. We have people that are Mormon, that are Jewish, that are Hindu, Catholic, many varieties of Christian churches. So our our we have a wide scope of people that are being supported in many different ways.
Thanks.
On that, you know, supporting folks from a wide variety of traditions and a wide variety of ways. I'm curious, especially in my role as a healthcare chaplain, what interventions you have found effective for individuals who are holding on to a wounding theology or a self-limiting theology related to their disability and their faith. Have you found anything that's specifically helpful for helping them unpack that or process that in more life-affirming ways?
I know that there, Padraic and Sherry, feel free to chime in here. I feel like if, from what you're saying, like if it's hindering them to live a full life type of thing or such, we have had several people who have switched faith communities, and they have found we've just pretty much tried to give as much opportunity for them to see the varieties of choices that they have. And we also try to make sure that they know that their value and how they're made by God is important, and that they should be able to grow and bloom in the way that they are made. I'm trying to, if you could give me or us a more specific example, it might help us to clarify that.
Sure. So an individual a denomination that comes to mind, Pentecostal, right?
Okay.
I've been
Yeah.
praying for years and I just don't have enough faith because God hasn't healed me of my disability yet. And I don't know what's wrong with me, or, I feel like I'm starting to hate God because God hasn't heard my prayers, or hate myself because I don't have enough faith, or, those sorts of wrestling questions.
Right.
That you see the hurt, you see the harm,
That makes,
they're inviting you into that space,
wow. Yeah.
wanting to, it's a space where I can be a companion to, I can affirm those feelings, I can be present, but looking for, if there's other more specific interventions that you have found helpful in those types of scenarios.
Sometimes through music or even just words. What you're saying is so important. And thank you so much for sharing that, Tim. We have talked a lot or shared with them, if they've invited us into the space, that it's not, our value is based on who we are and not what we can and can't do. And many times the focus has become on what you can do. I knew a woman who was feeling that way about herself, but she loved to fish. And we ended up finding some congregations that were having some wildlife type of expeditions. And we got some other women, because that's where she wanted to be, together to fish with her. And she was feeling really good about that. And then another woman went into hospice, but wasn't bedridden yet. And she had a dream of fishing too. So we invited this person that was really struggling to come with us and assist us, because she was such an expert in her area. And she actually did. And some of the guys over at Powder Mill Park brought them hats and t-shirts, and they actually filled up some extra fish in that pond, because I've never seen so many fish being caught. But she was in charge of taking them off hooks and putting them in the bucket. And she felt so good being able to help a friend. So I don't know if that's just a story, but we try to really focus in on what the person can do, but to really focus in on who they are and how they've been made by God. And that it doesn't matter if you don't have the use of this arm, or we try to really focus in on what their strengths are. And, I don't know if anyone else wants to share.
I think
Would,
oh,
oh,
go ahead, Paddy.
I'm sorry, I'll just go. As I'm reflecting on your question, Tim, I'm drawn to the people I support who have the really, really deep theological interest in the Bible, who really want to sit with me and ask me, what does this scripture mean, or or I have one person I support who studies Bible every month, actually with a former member of our team who's a pastor as well, who's always reflecting on questions. Also is equally really studying academics, math, and things like that, and wanting to always better herself and asking, how can I be better? What does this mean? And just really reflecting on scripture. I think it's just I'm also drawn to so I'm a person who lives with a physical disability as well, and I use a walker, and I notice that sometimes people I support will notice my walker and we'll share things. We'll see what's some commonalities as well. So I think that's somewhat in kind of understanding our disability more in some of those ways. I those are just some reflections on your question. But Sherry, you had something to add.
Well, I was gonna add that I haven't had like those moments, at Heritage, and again, being here 20 years, but I've been in this field for, almost another 20. We do try to look at what people can do and look at the positive side, and we're forever trying to motivate in that can-do direction. And I know during those times where someone's feeling more hopeless, honoring that moment and those feelings in that moment, in those darker, harder times, supporting them with recognizing they're not alone in it. And sometimes just we're not fixing anything, because that, that's mostly impossible. We're not fixers, but knowing that someone feels understood and they're having a feeling of being supported with their feelings and giving them the space to share, sometimes that lets some of that out so we can move forward and not stay stuck in that, I guess, that feeling of hopelessness. And I always say in our trainings that we do, we dance a little differently depending on the person we're supporting and where they're at. We're always dancing a little differently. And, we might head in one direction really and discover, okay, this is not, resonating with that person. We have to kind of change direction a little. So I guess that's my addition to it.
Especially for people that are going through grief and loss, or just are feeling maybe bad about themselves. We step back and they are our teacher. We have to become the student and really listen, be present, and then really hear what's the heart of this person? What is it? And then, as you guys often do, I'm sure in your work as chaplains, to just really encourage them in that, what we're hearing from them, from their hearts. It takes time and it takes patience, but I always think they are the teacher and I am the student.
I love, they are our teachers, focusing on what they can do, connecting them to community, and being present with them. Thank you, guys.
Yeah.
I think too, I really liked how you talked about meeting them intellectually where they are too. What is their understanding and how can you speak at their level, whatever that is, and not overwhelm them. And the importance of experience, like experiencing their purpose, experiencing their value can go a long way, it sounds like.
And our biggest joy is when we see that person connected and belonging, like when they're in it and we're not in it. We're like, whoop, we're out of here. Not that we're out of here, but you know what I mean? It's their life. It's not my life. But if we can help assist them to get to that place, it's just such a joy to just watch it continue to blossom and grow, and also be there for an ear if something's not working out, that.
And just to add to that, if I could, some people, we're lucky. We have a lot of history with Heritage Christian Services and a lot of investments. We've planted seeds over the years. So sometimes when you go in and someone's experiencing a hardship or a physical challenge or a great loss, I thank God for this, that I can go in and they know me and they know I'm there as a support. But that looks different for each person. Some people I could go in and we could tackle those tough things and, that might be a couple hours or 3-hour visit. But other people, I might need a whole day, or I might need to be sprinkled into their lives for a month, to really support where they're at. Whether it be a loss or a physical change where we're adjusting to something, or maybe some other things that are going on. So we are very blessed at Heritage that we are able to really give that kind of unique support. And we support each other also in that as colleagues, because sometimes Diane in our sidebar we were saying, like, sometimes you have a lot of places to be, and I think any clergy would recognize this. I have a lot of places to be and I have a lot of things to do. And you feel as though you're maybe shortchanging folks, and no one wants to do that. And one of our colleagues that used to be part of this team actually had said, remember, they already have a savior. And that was a nice reminder for some Christian folks. Like, and again, we're no good if we're not taking care of ourselves, and we need to remind ourselves of that. So just my little side part, and I appreciate this time.
One, just connected to that, one of the great joys I have is being part of this team that's connected to my experience with CPE is that I am part of a team of four spiritual care providers, where we can go to each other and say, oh, I had this experience, and I need, this is how I experienced it. I can use your support, or what do you think about this? So really can connect with one another, and that was something I really appreciated, especially in the more challenging times during CPE, to go to my cohort. So to experience the similar thing here is such a joy. Yeah.
I appreciate that. Diane, I had the pleasure of meeting you on a visit with a student recently, and it's made me wonder, as hospital chaplains, what's the best way we can work with you when you have a resident in the hospital? Because I found out that you have staff with that person all the time. So what are some of the things that would be helpful for us to know about working with you when someone is in the hospital?
I would say, like what you and, what was it, what was her name that was with you? Lynette, she was really special. She was neat. I love the way you came in, just so I'm just saying, like you came in, you kind of, I call it, scan the scene to see what was going on. And, I know I said he just got to sleep, so pretty much honoring if a staff says, can you come back another time? But then he kind of woke up a little bit. It was great because he loved holding hands and praying with you guys. And so it worked out, but kind of that slow entrance is really important. Sometimes I do this when I go just maybe for a visit and I know I'm gonna see a staff person and it's not gonna be me or Padraic or Sherry at times, of course. I try to bring a chocolate bar just to give the staff, or some little tiny thing. It might even be a little scripture card, just something, or even something silly and funny, just to say, hey, I'm thinking of you. I know you've got a long day here. For us, we're able to say, hey, you want to go out for lunch? I'm going to be here. But I know it wouldn't be the same with the chaplain because of training and things, but just that little tiny thing, whether it's a little scripture card or I don't know, a joke even, just something light because it's kind of heavy sometimes. Or if you know a church or a faith community that's making a prayer shawl to bring that for the person. Um, they love it. I think the staff love it, seeing the interaction. So if there's no items available, you just come in and just love on the person. And it just gives them a minute to take a breath or maybe finish up a note that they haven't had time to do on the computer for the nurses. So I think honoring the person that's with the person is really cool because then they feel valued and then they're going to be able to give more to that person, encouragement wise.
Just wanted to echo what you're saying, Diane. I often ask silly questions, which are better, pancakes or waffles, or jokes, what's blue and not very heavy, light blue.
I love
And
it.
there was a social worker who stopped me several months ago and said, Tim, when you started, I really didn't understand what you were doing or why you were doing it, but I understand now and I really, really appreciate it.
Aw.
And it, as I've mentioned to folks, oftentimes, like, you are more than what you do and you have permission to be human, right?
Oh, I love that. I love that,
And
Tim.
it's interesting also sometimes when that comes up with patients directly. I had an individual who was a patient in his 80s, dementia. We were talking and he said, I miss my mommy and my daddy. And one of my favorite interventions is, if I could wave a magic wand, open a portal, and your loved ones could come back for only 5 minutes, what would you tell them?
Oh,
And then
I
after they
love
say
that.
that, what would they tell you? And then after that,
Oh,
how would you say goodbye? And he said, he talked about, I miss you, I love you. And when I asked what would they say back to him, he started talking about this aunt who was a mother superior who always told jokes. And I said, well, I'm not your aunt, but can I tell you a joke on her behalf? So I told a dad joke, and he laughed, he smiled and laughed. The first time the whole visit, he smiled and laughed. The only time he smiled and laughed. And he said,
That's great.
she would like that joke. That's a joke she would tell. And that, my
That's
own
great.
model of chaplaincy is, I want to be fully human with folks and invite them to be fully human with me. And I love that phrase.
Tim, can you say that again? I want to catch the whole thing.
My model of chaplaincy is to be fully human with you, invite you to be fully human with me.
Oh, I love
I
it.
believe sometimes we catch a glimpse of the divine when we're fully human together. And that phrase that I love that you put in the chat and you said earlier, sometimes the little things are the big things. It's 30 seconds or 60 seconds, but the impact that has on staff care, burnout, moral injury, like all of these things is absolutely huge. So thank you for all that you do. I'm just echoing what you're saying, Diane, because it's absolutely important.
Yes. Well, I'll tell you, yesterday there's a family that actually Marianne met some of them when she was in the room with us, and they are just sitting around. They've just taken all the tubes out and all of the extra medical stuff because he moved into official comfort care. And I had just been at another hospital all day, but I knew I was supposed to stop by just to check in because I'll see them tomorrow. And I stopped in, and 10 people in the parking lot trying to park in a full parking lot. So I dipped into the 10-minute parking spot, which I knew I was taking a risk, but I was like, this is all I got. So I ran up, and as I was leaving, I mean, I just said, do you guys want a glass of ice water? That's a really good one too, Marianne, because a lot of times the staff don't feel like they can leave the room to go get a glass of water. Just throwing that out there. But I said to them as I'm leaving, well, if you guys see me in the post office on the most wanted, I might have been 11 minutes kidding around. But I mean, even though they're in hospice and they're going through this hard time, like you said, Tim, sometimes a little lightness of heart when it's appropriate and you have that relationship, it goes, it was so fun to see them smiling and just kind of giggling at me. Uh-oh, we're going to look out for you up at the post office, whatever. But yeah, I do think that lightness there's a place for it. And I love what you said. I'm going to write it down about being fully human. That was great. Thanks.
So Diane and Jerry and Patty, we're about at our time.
Okay.
And I just want to thank you so much for being willing to be here and for talking with us. We have another Lunch and Learn coming up in March on the 20th at 11 o'clock, and I would invite everybody to be part of that. The topic is to be announced, so watch your emails for that. And Tim and Joanne, and I saw Reggie there for a little while. Thanks for being here, and thank the three of you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank
Blessings.
you. Have a blessed day.